All right, P.A.B., what's going on? Before the podcast started, we were talking about being nervous. And I think nervous is really good, especially because it tells you that you actually care about something.
100%.
Because you want something to be done and done well, and it's your name attached to it and all this stuff. So my dad used to tell me that when you're not nervous about something, you should probably quit it because it doesn't mean anything to you.
I completely agree.
So yeah, it's good to be a little nervous, and I also think we should like put little challenges in front of us, so to speak, every day to some degree. I think it sharpens the brain. It allows us a little bit of practice to stay calm in the eyes of the storm, so to speak, because inevitably, life will throw you a curveball here and there.
Oh, 110%. I completely agree.
Right? You know what I'm talking about. And then it's like, how do you kind of stay calm in the eyes of the chaos and handle your business? So, I mean, I'm sure you can relate as a surfer.
Yeah, actually, that's 100% how I feel about getting in the water. For me, I have really bad anxiety. I don't like to say that I have anxiety because I find that if I tell myself I don't, I get less anxious in a situation. But to me, it's like going out in a big day in the lake when it's freezing cold. It's very anxiety driven. And I'm forced to calm my mind down because if I don't calm down, it's only going to go worse for me. I'm going to get sucked under waves. I'm going to wipe out because I'm not focused on just being in the moment. And surfing's really just taught me how to breathe, live in the moment, and put your anxiety to the side.
Yeah, dude, that's like the biggest analogy for getting calm in the eyes of the storm. You know, just like you said, you have to make sure that you're as present as hell because, you know, the water can throw you in so many directions.
100%.
You gotta just let yourself kind of take over. So it's interesting. You surf the Great Lakes.
Right.
People don't think Midwest and surfing.
Not at all.
Right. So every time you say that to somebody, I've heard you share this story multiple times now in the last 6 months. It's like surfing the Midwest Great Lakes. How do you stay warm? Because it's all wintertime surf. How do you stay balanced? How do you keep yourself at equilibrium? So share with me a little bit of your process and like what urges you and what's like drives you to go surfing in the middle of Lake Michigan in the wintertime. It's, you know, it's crazy to me.
Yeah. So first off is definitely the gear. The gear is the most important part. So I have my 6.5 millimeter wetsuit on top of booties and gloves. And I look like a Teletubby. I always say this. I look like a Teletubby when I'm in that wetsuit. But when I get out in the water, it's like that first second that you jump in, you're freezing cold. And then after that, you feel like a normal temperature. You're not cold at all. It's really getting changed. That's the hardest part. But for me, it's like, if I go through that uncomfortable moment of getting changed, I'm going to be out there riding down the line just in this really amazing connection with the earth. And it's like seeing the snow fall while you're out on a wave is like a feeling that you can't even describe it. Yeah. It's so amazing.
Yeah, I've never seen the city from that perspective. And I got to imagine, like, if you're not used to it, it's very strenuous. It's very overwhelming. I can just like I'm imagining myself like at the end of a surf in the Great Lakes or in Lake Michigan or whatever, that I would be so sore and like really just like you know, when you get out of a cold plunge or whatever, I would feel that euphoria of just like being outside. But now you're like moving your body and pushing and pulling and getting yourself up and standing on unstable surfaces and then falling back in. And I'm sure there's a lot of up and down, a lot 100%. Of on your belly, standing to your feet, getting off the board, on your belly again. There's like all these awkward positions. So the temperature's cold, the water's cold, and then you're moving. I got to imagine like you're really sore afterwards. But like I feel like I've seen you so many times after your surfs over the winter time, or at least, you know, January, February is when we first started working together into early spring when it's still pretty cold outside, and you're looking great, you're physical, you're strong, you're still working out, you're hitting heavy weights. So it's like, talk to me about after you get out of the water. What's that like on your body?
Yeah, so it really depends to me, like, what season I'm in. In the summer, I just kind of feel like jelly, I like to say. Like, I get out, I'm just super tired. But my body feels fine. When I get out of the water after the winter, I tend to like have a tiny bit of frost. It's not like actual frostbite, but like my toes are numb, my hands are cold, and I'm just like super shivery and cold. So I feel that kind of jiggliness and just the feeling of just fatigue with being freezing. And so it takes like a bit. Like I remember I used to come back from surfing, like cuddle in my sheets for like an hour, try to warm up, and then I would have to head to work, and I'd be heading to work with like 2 hoodies on because I'm still trying to warm myself up.
Yeah, crazy. But like this is a system, it's a process that you do that you enjoy, that
100%.
That challenges you. Well, it's more than you enjoy. You have a very strong passion for this.
It's a passion. This
is in your heart. This is in your soul. And I think that's very important to, when it comes to expressing yourself and long-term health and happiness, longevity, you have to do things you're passionate about. So it's a passion thing, but this helps you stay calm with, in chaos. This helps you manage anxiety, so to speak. There's a lot 100%. Of people out there that have anxiety, that have a hard time dealing with anxiety. I believe, and this may be unpopular opinion, that we're all built with anxiety. Like we all feel it. It just depends whether or not we have the skills to deal with it or not. And some might be a little bit more sensitive to it than others, depending on your upbringing and all that, all that stuff, all the skills that you've built up along the way. But this is a process that nonetheless helps you manage anxiety.
100%.
Right? And you said something very important to me earlier in the beginning. You're like, I tell myself I don't have it. Yes. When I know I have it, because it helps me feel it less. So part of it is like your mentality. Part of it is how you develop yourself. Talk to me about your relationship with anxiety and how it's kind of like grown over the course of your life and other ways that you might help mitigate some of that anxiety.
Yeah, so I guess I first noticed my anxious behaviors when I was a kid. I would always go to school and kind of like be sitting in my chair. I would like profusively sweat, be very fidgety, and I was just like always in my head. Like I would try to lock in on the schoolwork, but then my head would go somewhere else because I was so anxious. And then leading into high school is when I kind of got that depression hitting me, and my anxiety was off the walls. And I got diagnosed with it, obviously. And during my healing process and during the time that I connected with the gym and found that as a healing source for me, I was able to learn that if I tell myself, like, I am anxious right now, it's only going to add to my anxiety. Or what I can do is understand how I'm feeling in that moment, take a second to breathe, understand how I'm feeling, be okay with how I'm feeling, and regroup myself.
Let's go back to what you said earlier. In high school, you started feeling depressed.
Yes.
And then you got diagnosed with anxiety.
Yes, and depression.
So, like, let's unpack that. Because we hear that a lot. I mean, if you're comfortable sharing this.
100%.
Talk to me a little bit about, like, what was that depression like? And then the process of going to see somebody and then being diagnosed with this disease that's very broad.
Yeah.
Right? Does it offend you when I say like everyone has anxiety?
No, not at all.
Right? And I don't want to be offended or offensive rather, but like I just want to like learn more about this disease that we call anxiety and like where's the line between people who have it and people don't have it and like being labeled somebody with this disease, quote unquote. So like if you could explain that to me and break that down, and how does that label impact the way that you see yourself?
100%. So I first got diagnosed because I'm going to get real deep and personal here, but when I was in cheer, one of my athletes noticed, or teammates noticed I was self-harming. And so she told the school, my family found out, and my family immediately just took me to a doctor. That was like the first like step that we were going to take. And so I'm sitting in the appointment and my doctor is just talking to me and she's like, I'm diagnosing you with depression and anxiety. Here's a prescription for antidepressants. Let's also get you into therapy, which I'm glad that she suggested therapy because I think that's great. But I was not too fond about the fact that she was like, right away, here's a drug. Take it right away. And I took that drug for probably a week. And I was like, this is not right. Like, I feel disconnected. I feel numb. I feel like there is just something wrong with this drug. And I immediately stopped. And I feel like I felt more depressed knowing I had that diagnosis than before when I didn't know. And so I took things upon me. I was like, I want to get better. Like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I want to get better. And I was trying all these paths, and that's where I ended up getting into fitness, because it was a way for me to kind of like get my emotions out, still feel pain in like a comfortable and safe way. And it ended up changing me and like making me happy, and just felt for the first time ever like true love for myself. And that's kind of why I got into personal training, because I wanted to reach out to clients that are in a similar situation that I was in and help them discover that the best antidepressant and the best way to heal is fitness.
Yeah, move your body.
Move your body.
That's what you're talking about. You're talking about getting in tune with yourself through a physical aspect, and then, you know, you get into bodybuilding, you get into this term that we call fitness, and it's typically tied in with bodybuilding first. I mean, that's how I got into it. That's how I heard about, you know, I mean, you want to look good. I mean, everyone finds their way that exercise and fitness works for them. In your case, it was trying to balance your mental and emotional levels.
110%.
You know? And you found that pretty quickly. And that's, you know, the first question I asked to mitigate your anxiety was, you know, what other things that you do, and exercise is a big part, of course. I want to backtrack though. I want to talk a little bit deeper about this, you know, the diagnosis and the quick thing that, you know, you go see a doctor, great. They put you on drugs right away, but, you know, the good thing is they couple it with therapy. Let's go back to how you were feeling on the antidepressants. You said you weren't feeling right. You said, like, what was that like?
So I had 2 experiences that made me right away say, I'm not doing this anymore.
Okay.
The first one is I was going to school. It was like, I think my second time on the pill. And I get into class and I'm like extra shaky. Like, I'm a very, very shaky person, but like I could not sit still. I was super hyperactive. Like, I almost got up and left the classroom because I felt so oddly like hyperactive. And then a couple days later, I was sitting in my room and I just wanted to cry. Like, I wanted to get my emotions out, and it felt like I was numb. Like, I couldn't allow myself to cry. I couldn't allow myself to feel my emotions. And in that spot, I was like, how is something that numbs you make you better? Because sometimes I believe that you need to dig super deep and get to an ultimate low to realize how you're feeling and what caused this for you to get better.
Yeah. Because for some people it works fine, and just like the lowest dose of an antidepressant allows people to function. I mean, it's so crazy how we're all unique individuals, and we're taking in information at different speeds, and it affects each individual differently. And yeah, just like it felt that way for you, completely out of the ordinary, probably freaked you out a little bit.
I was so like freaked out. I was like, why do I feel like this? Like, I remember the next day my mom was like, are you taking your medications? I was like, no, I'm not doing it.
So this was like a personal decision that you were like, this too out of alignment, doesn't feel like me, and it's scary.
Yeah, I felt disconnected with the universe too. That's like a whole nother thing. I felt like spiritually, I was like, I felt like a clone almost.
See, like,
or a robot.
Like being connected with the universe. Let's break that down. Like, what is, to me, that is like connecting with your truest level of like enthusiasm, your love, things that inspire you. I always go back to the time when I think about when I was a kid, like how I felt with certain things, like when I was playing guitar or watching soccer or playing soccer or you know, things of that nature. The music was huge. Like, it really used to inspire me and get me going. So what I'm hearing is, it's like staying true to what you are, finding things that excite you, enthuse you, have enthusiasm towards, I think is really important. And find a constructive way or a healthy way to share your emotions, get in tune with things that you like, express yourself accordingly in healthy ways, and you'll start to manage these levels of fear, anxiety, because you're more comfortable with yourself. But then, like, life is this process of uncovering yourself and finding out what you're made of. So then we test ourselves and we put ourselves in positions to see what we're made of. At least that's what I've done my whole life. It's like I'm comfortable. Like, so we work on our self-esteem, right? We got that anxiety in check. We work on our self-esteem. We start to develop a little bit of character. We have good people around us that are helping us develop, which I think is a massive thing.
100%.
I feel like what we got going down here at the gym, between all of us, all the trainers kind of working in with each other every day, here and there, learning about each other and the things that we like, what we don't like, and we all want each other to be better, right? We all want to grow. Like, this is the way that I set it up down here so that everyone can prosper and be the best version of themselves and help people to the highest level that they want to. And we all want to be better, so we all see each other's strengths and we all see each other's weaknesses, and we all try to help each other, and we're finding the right way to communicate all that stuff, you know? So to change course here, like, you're a surfer, you put yourself in these positions, but then you also said that fitness and exercise was a great way to balance that anxiety levels, that balance your mental emotional levels. But then you get into bodybuilding right away, and someone said that you never win your first championship, or you never win your first bodybuilding show that you do. But then let's talk about your story. Now that you start getting a little bit more into fitness, you start seeing changes in your body. When did the light bulb go off and say, hey, I can probably do a bodybuilding show and win? And then take me to that process there. So
I started lifting around February of 2022, I think it was. And around that time, I had a friend of mine come up to me and she was like, you would be a really good bikini competitor. Like, if you put on some muscle to you, you would do pretty good. And
who was this person?
She was just one of the girls. What was her name? Maris?
So not like a trainer or anything?
No, not a trainer. She was a friend that kind of was one of the people that pushed me. She told me to try deadlifting, and she's kind of the person that woke me up on maybe I should try this fitness thing. Maybe I should try lifting and see where it goes. And then a few months later, I was kind of hitting another low point in my life. And I wanted another thing. I wanted something to work towards. And I talked to my father and I was like, I know you used to compete. How would you feel about coaching me through a bodybuilding show? And he was 110% in. He's like, let's do it. So right away, I'm like, I'm competing and I'm going to win.
Sweet.
I was like, I will do everything in my power. I'm going to go into this and I'm going to win.
When you were a kid, did you see your dad work out and all that stuff?
No, my dad actually stopped working out around the time that I was born.
Really?
Because it was hard. My mom needed help because he was working out, coaching, doing all these things. And my mom had all of us, it was just all on her. So he had to let go of it, but he started getting into the gym around the time that I started. So it was kind of good for both of us because we both were getting back into him getting back into fitness, me getting into fitness.
Yeah. That's cool. So just to preface this, Pia's dad was a bodybuilder and bodybuilding coach. So I was just wondering, if you saw that as you were a kid, you know what I mean? A lot of the things that I do today is because I watched people in my life kind of do things, and I like that. My dad, for example, got me into soccer and got me into guitar, and I watched that. Boom. It's you do that because the people around you were. So you just kind of knew it, but never saw your dad kind of work out or anything like that. So you ask him, it ignites this spark in you, it reignites this spark in him. Now that's special.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing between father and daughter. As a father, I try to be an inspiration as far as say the things that I mean and mean what I say, and then do the things that I say I'm going to do, and show my kid what it means to be a person of integrity and work towards something that's very important to you. That's part of your soul. It's part of your heart that helps people. Super important to see that connection. So, side note. Anyway, you get into this fitness journey. You're 19 years old. Your dad's in it with you. Continue.
So then I started my first prep. Obviously, I had been waiting for so long. I was so stoked to get started. And I'm going through it. First couple weeks were super easy. I thankfully had no opportunity to cheat on my meals whatsoever because I lived with my dad. So I lived with my coach. There was no room for error. I was 110% in it. And I remember towards the last few weeks of my prep, I was starting to kind of get in my head, like, I'm not going to win. I'm not lean enough. Like, I could be better. I should have worked harder. I should have done more. And I remember someone at my gym coming up to me when I was talking about the fact, I'm like, I'm going to win. I'm going to do this. And he said to me, he was like, you know, you're not going to win your first bodybuilding show, right? And I was there and I was like, well, we never know. And I was kind of just like super shy. I didn't know how to react, but that like ignited even more of a fire in me. I'm like, I need to prove this guy wrong. Like, I need to take that overall. And I get into my show. I'm super anxious. If you saw a photo or a video of me on stage, I was like shaking so hard because I was so nervous because I cared. So
you're nervous because you care. And like you're putting yourself in this position and you got to show up because you worked so hard for it. But then again, like, you know, luck is when preparation meets that right timing, and like when you're prepared and now the time is there to shine, you know what you have to do, you've done all the dirty work, you know, just to show up is the easy part.
100%.
Did you have trouble learning to pose and all that stuff early on, or?
I did. I had a posing coach. She was great. I've always struggled with posing. I'm just not like the most like graceful, coordinated person.
But let's also be real too. Like, you are only 20 years old right now as we speak, right? You did this show, you know, a year and a half ago. You're really young and you're just getting like the wheels rolling, so to speak. And like, you're just learning to get into the body, your own body, and like, you know, really fire things up the way you're supposed to. Like, I'm not a bodybuilder, so I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. So take that how you will. But like, this is your first time doing it. So you're just like getting that first time experience. I assume that there are more competitions in your life ahead of you because
there is.
You know, you had so much success. But anyway, so like, yeah, you're 20 years old. I just want anyone listening to know that this is pretty recent, and these are things that you're just starting to learn and embody, and it's so cool. It's so cool to get to know you and understand this and learn this about you. So you prep, and then what happens?
And so I get on stage, and I looked pretty good. I was still like a little bit in my head about like, I don't know if I'm going to win. Like, I saw some of the other people I was competing against. I'm like, oh my God, they look so good. Like, I'm on stage. I only had like one person in my few classes, and I had a few, I think like 3 in the other, and I ended up being center, won all those. And I remember going into finals and being up for that overall, and I see the girl that I thought was going to take it. I was like, I want to take it, but this girl has the potential to have it. And I remember being on stage and holding my pose, and I was moved to center and she was right next to me, and they stopped. They had us standing there for like a minute straight, just holding a pose. And I remember in that moment, I'm like, this is when I cannot let go of this pose. I need to hold it. I need to take this overall. I'm going to do everything I have in this last second to try to get it. And then I obviously won it. And I remember seeing my dad like out in the crowd, like tearing up a little bit about the experience. And just like, I never felt like I accomplished something more in my life. It was probably one of the best feelings I have ever felt.
That's cool, man.
Just working so hard and putting all my energy and just putting it into the universe. Like I was saying, like, I'm going to win. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put all my energy into this. I'm putting my energy into winning. I'm going to do it. And then to actually win all 3 of my classes, get most promising athlete, and take the overall, it was just, I was in shock. I was so happy.
That's pretty badass, dude. Congrats.
Thank you.
I didn't know it to that degree. That's cool. I knew you won it, but like, that's a cool story. And there's definitely got to be some more in the future that you're planning to do.
100%. We're thinking next year.
Okay. Good. Cool. Yeah. You should document the whole thing.
I'll do it.
Yeah. You should definitely document the whole thing. But there was a point that I wanted to make there. So like, you put yourself in this position that's nerve-wracking. Even though it's scary, you do it anyway.
Exactly.
Do you think that that's a big part of growth? Do you think that's a big part of self-development? Do you think that's a big part of everyone's ability to manage anxiety, having a purpose, putting yourself in position to develop skills, and then go to the test? Do you think that process is essential for long-term health and
110%. I like to think like when you have a feeling that you want to do something, you should do something, it's because your future self already has it. I like to think of that. So I'm like, I'm in this situation. I'm like, I really, really want to compete. Like, I want to go for this. Like, I have this fire to do it. I have this strive to do it. Maybe I have this strive because my future self already has it.
No, it's not a maybe. It's for certain. If you look, I mean, if you what you're talking about is some people might consider woo woo, but like when you think of, I'm going to start getting philosophical here, as every moment like an eternal present moment, and all we have is the right now. That means that your future self and your past selves are always living simultaneously in this present. Okay? At least that's how I think about it. And if your future self exists somewhere in the cosmos at that high level that you imagine it to be, and talk yourself up to be, and believe it, then at some point, like, you start to become that.
100%.
You're living that. It's not like you wish for it and hope that you become that. Like, what I'm hearing is all this positive self-talk. I think that is a really, really important piece to this whole process of becoming a version of you that you see yourself. It's talking that way and believing in that certain manner that you live. And we got to be mindful of how we speak to ourselves, how we speak to other people. Like that person that was saying like, oh, you're never going to win your first competition, right? Like that right there is just a mentality that is, I mean, some might say realistic, but at the same time, like it's possible to win. So you're never, and you prove that. So it's like, you'll never reach that level of potential without believing it, without saying it, without prepping for that moment. But if you already go in with the attitude that you're not going to win,
then you won't.
Then you won't win.
Because you're not going to give it your all too, because you're just going to, you're going to train, you're going to give half of it instead of 100% because you're in this mindset like, I'm not going to do it. Versus when I would like to go on walks during prep and I would put like podcasts on or just like a song, and I would tell myself, I'm like, I'm going to do everything in my power. I am going to win. I'm going to put everything I can because I am not going to let someone come in looking better than me. Yeah.
And you know what's really hard to do is to keep that mindset when things aren't going your way.
100%.
Right, and that's why we do what we do. That's why we strength train. That's why we meditate. I mean, I meditate regularly, and it's to really get myself centered and focused, and my brain prepped, my mind prepped, my body prepped for seeing opportunity, and that means I'm talking positively to myself. I'm very aware of how I'm speaking to the people around me. And I have this problem where I'm a little sarcastic.
You are very sarcastic.
You know, like that. There's those deeper issues to that. I remember speaking with this woman in Italy, and I was just getting to know these people, and my natural sarcastic asshole self starts to come out. And I say, I wonder, because she was a Paul Chek level 4 instructor, Chek certified. Paul Chek is this holistic health coach that's been around for decades. Anyway, he's got this pretty extensive program, and she went all the way to level 4. I think she completed level 5. So she was all about like emotions connecting to organs, and organs being part of the body, obviously connected to fascia, and how the way we behave and the way we talk and everything kind of meant something. I know you can kind of get too deep in that realm, but anyway, I was talking about how I'm so fucking sarcastic sometimes, and how that could be like a a defense mechanism to something deeper, a deeper insecurity in myself.
100%.
So my point is, like, when I'm speaking in that way, it could be destructive to myself, it could be destructive to the people in my environment, and then now we're going down kind of like this lower level vibrational pole. As opposed to speaking, yes, I'm gonna win, I will win, I am nothing but champion, my DNA, right? You say stuff like that, you believe it, you become it, you live that way every single day, and little by little, when it comes time to, duke it out or whatever it is, get on stage, perform, do the session, do the workshop that you say you're going to go and do, or whatever challenge you have set up for yourself, and then you go ahead and accomplish it. I mean, there's nothing like being in the moment and knowing that it could go south, but overcoming that fear anyway.
100%.
Right? And then we'll do that with everything that we do. If we're negative, we're going to be that way with everything that we do.
If you don't get comfortable being uncomfortable, I love that quote, be comfortable, or what was I saying? Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's right.
If you are not uncomfortable, you're probably never going to succeed.
But here's the thing. You also have developed a way to manage that stress when it's uncomfortable, talking about the beginning of this conversation, right? And this is like the conundrum of life that we're talking about. It's like we can't be happy and equilibrium all the time. It gets too dull and boring. So you
100%.
develop a challenge of some sort, hopefully something that's meaningful to you that helps other people. Like we've talked about, like your story, like this is the developing of a person, right? This is the warrior phase of one's life that is essential to health and wellness long term, and to keep doing this as we develop, to keep finding more ways to challenge ourselves, to develop and to build skills, you know, and also contribute something into the world. It's like, I know it sounds so philosophical and blah, 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 but it's like a really important thing when it comes to long-term health and wellness. You know what I'm saying? And to keep doing it day in and day out, have another challenge. And it's good to have the uncomfortability aspect of it. But when you're somebody who can't manage their anxiety, then they come back and we come back to the beginning part of this conversation, and then they get labeled with somebody who has depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
And like, this is an interesting thing to me. Eastern medicine, they don't really diagnose a problem. They talk about the patterns that may lead to the problem. But then they talk about ways to break the pattern and reinstall new patterns.
I completely agree.
Western medicine gives this label, and then once we gotten this label from a doctor, we look at that as gospel, and then it becomes our identity.
Yeah.
And then we believe that we're someone living with anxiety and depression.
Like when I was going through, so when I was first getting started with therapy and everything, because I switched from one therapist to another, and the one therapist was saying, like, I think she might have bipolar disorder. I think she might have ADHD. Like, we need to do testing, get her diagnosed. Like, she obviously has a behavioral problem. And this is why I love my current therapist so much. I still see her here and there because I've just built such a good connection with her. But she was like, I think you just need to heal. She was huge into like more holistic medicine, which I loved. And she's like, let's figure out what traumas are causing these actions, and let's work on healing those first before we jump into a diagnosis. And now we talk about it every day. Like, remember when you would come in here and you were so anxious, you couldn't sit still, you're looking all around the room, you know, you're doing all these like spontaneous, risky things. Like, now you're in like such a calm energy. You're able to have conversations, eye to eye contact, like all these like things that I was supposed to be diagnosed with, completely like those behaviors disappeared. All because I healed that past trauma and I healed the inner child in me.
But you're also, I mean, I like to think that we're always healing, because more and more shit kind of happens to us, especially if we're putting ourselves into these challenge-like settings or whatever. You know, like you have a dream, you have a goal.
Yeah.
There's going to be hurdles.
I just had one experience of me healing even more.
What? Share it?
So right around the time that I started like officially training here, I got surrounded by this negative energy, and I thought that I really liked the situation. I thought it was kind of like my soul situation. Like I was around everyone where I wanted to be with. I was just like doing what I always wanted to do. But then I realized that that energy was actually tearing me down, because I was constantly being told things like, you know, you don't lock in. I was feeling like just from the energy I was receiving, that like my muscles were unfeminine, and just
from specific people.
Yeah. I'm not trying to like go out there, but and it's nothing against those people. It was just the energy I was receiving from them, because I wasn't meant to be in those people's lives and with that energy. And I would just start feeling more and more down about myself, and I would doubt that I was ever going to be successful in the fitness industry, that I was ever going to get my dreams.
Yeah. And
as soon as I had an opportunity in front of me to either choose to stay in that negativity and stay in that cycle, or choose myself, walk away, it might hurt in the moment, but it's going to feel better in the future, it's like everything's clicked. Like we had the WEC method qualification course, which was amazing. Yeah. That connected me with Ben Watson out in Australia, who actually trains surfers, which is amazing. I've talked with my coach, and we're starting prep soon for a bodybuilding show in spring. We're starting that around January time. And it's like, because I decided to choose myself and choose the positive energy over the negative energy, it's like all these opportunities and positivity is just flowing into my life.
Yeah, of course. Like when you're around a bunch of negative Nancys, like misery loves company.
Oh yeah.
They're going to pull you down to their level. It is just what it is. And kudos to you for having the self-awareness to be like, hey, I know that I'm not reaching my levels of potential. I mean, I know I just think of my friends like making fun of me kind of because I talk like this all the time. Like we want to put ourselves in position to be the best version of ourselves. And when people negative are putting you down, it's like you just soup to that level.
100%.
And then you get stuck in these old patterns of ways of thinking and behaving that you used to be. And you recognize that, hey, this is not good. I don't feel excited about what I'm supposed to be doing. This is kind of just like blah. I don't feel the energy, right? So you choose to remove yourself from that. And you are the culmination of the 5 people that you hang around with the most.
Yep.
Hands down.
And for me, like now that the main people that I hang out with is my coworkers who uplift me like crazy. And then just a few really, really close friends that genuinely care about me, love me, and are kind of all about getting better too and progressing. Like it's so hard to find a 20-year-old that doesn't drink, doesn't party, isn't crazy about doing a bunch of drugs.
Yeah.
And is just huge into becoming the better version of themselves. And finding people like that was life-changing.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Congrats. And just again, having the awareness to know that. And like once you have that skill set, you're going to be good the rest of your life. Because like when it starts going south again, wherever you are, you'll have the wherewithal to understand that, and then change things up if you have to.
Yeah.
And then you have the skills to stir up something new if you're forced to again. Like,
and it's hard for me because like I am the type of person that I just want to be friends with everyone. Like I want to spread positivity.
Yeah.
But understanding like even I'm not a bad person if I decide to not be around someone anymore because it drags me down. And not be around something because I feel negativity from it, and choosing myself because I know that it's only going to uplift me.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to make that decision, especially because you love that person, you care about that person, you care about whatever the situation is, but understanding that you need to put yourself first and your energy is the most important thing.
Yeah, you got to fill up your cup first before you can fill up anybody else's
100%.
cup. Yeah, a lot of times people are trying to help other people first when they're sitting there with an empty cup. It's like you can't keep giving energy if you're on empty. You know what I'm saying? So
100%.
At some point you have to be selfish and fill your cup up when you need, when you have to have your needs met too. Like that's a really important thing. And like the people that are supposed to be around will understand that you have needs that need to be met and vice versa. Like that's the whole thing, and communicating that effectively is also key. If you want to move forward together in a relationship, like all that stuff has to be expressed in a nonviolent way, in my opinion. And it's something that I'm trying to like learn in all my relationships, the relationships with you guys here at the gym, the relationships with my clients, my relationship with my wife and my child, like my parents, all of this. Like I want peace in my life. I want everyone to reach their highest level of potential and reach maximum abundance for all the folks in my circle, because we can. Like it doesn't mean like if I'm winning somebody else is losing. We all could be kind of winning together. 100%.
And it's also like a thing for me is like I want to be around people that also feel the way that I feel. Like I see my dream and I don't even think of it as a dream. I say that is me in the future. That is the future me. And being around people who can also see me in that position in the future only helps me bring that energy into my life and keep bringing me closer and closer to achieving, I'm not even going to say dreams, but achieving my goals, because it's going to happen.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. That's great to hear that. And it's great for you to say that, because other people will, they may have been feeling some sort of feeling like this for a long time, but, like you're comfortable enough with yourself to express that and like be, unapologetic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like these are what the things that you care about, and like this is how you want to live your life, and that's fucking awesome.
I've always had that spark for me. It's like I've always had that connection, and I'm gonna say right now, my connection ever since I was a little kid was always surfing. I was like, I always wanted to be a surfer. I always wanted to be out on the waves. I've always like was fascinated by it. But I've also always loved fitness. And I'm like, well, what can I do? Because I want my future to be involved with surfing and fitness. And that's where the dream of training pro surfers came into my life, because I could teach people how to move on dry land to move better in the water.
Damn right. I'm sure, like, you know, you got the bodybuilding foundation, and now you start learning a little bit of the WEC stuff.
Love the WEC stuff.
Coiling core, a little mobility and strength training simultaneously. That stuff will carry over to the surfing. So it's cool. You got your feet in a few different areas of fitness. And like it's unique for you, and there's other people out there in the same position that you are, you know. They're surfers, they want to become stronger, maybe they've had some injuries that you can help them with rehabbing, and just, you know, live a lifestyle that is pain-free, and they're able to physically achieve the goals that they set themselves to.
100%.
Yeah, and you can help them get there because of all the experience that you're kind of just experiencing right now in different ways of training. And also, too, you're going to see some of these new modalities of training carry over to your bodybuilding, too.
Oh, 100%. Ever since I've been doing more of this WEC method stuff, I've seen changes not only in the water, like my surfing has improved so much, but also being in less pain during a lift.
Ah.
Like I used to have horrible lower back pain. That is pretty much gone, and that's also from the help of Chrissy. Yeah. Chrissy doing dry needling. She's absolutely wonderful.
Precision Performance here at the Underground Fitness Studio. Absolutely. We've been working with her for a long time. She's great.
If anyone's looking for a physical therapist, go to her.
Chrissy Davis Gregory.
There we go.
Precision Performance at the Underground Fitness Studio. All right, cool. So let's kind of recap what we've been talking about. We're talking about being positive, saying the positive things in your head, being true to who you are, listening to those things, right? Enthusiasm. Here's a quick wordplay on the word enthusiasm. It comes from the Greek word entheos, which means the God within.
I did not know that.
Right?
That's a good one.
You know, a lot of times people say, oh, you get too spiritual or whatever. Okay, so we use the word enthusiasm. It comes from the Greek word entheos, which means the God within. Entheogens is another term they use for psychedelics, which, you know, people who use psychedelics say that they have connected with God, or their consciousness is part of something bigger, and they get like these feelings of consciousness, your own consciousness being connected with everything in the universe simultaneously, which is a bizarre thing to talk about. But I think there's similarities there, and something to kind of think about when it comes to our own enthusiasm. Is that the God inside of us coming out? Is that when it's also like when you are listening to somebody speak about something they're passionate about or enthusiastic about, like it resonates with somebody even more. Right?
I never heard of that, and I love the way it sounds. Like I can completely connect with it. Like, right? I feel like whenever you're enthusiastic about something, that's because that is your life path. Like you are supposed to go down that path. Like I always see 444 when I feel the most enthusiastic, and my brain is mostly connected with, you know, my dreams or my future, my wants and my needs. And I've connected that. It's like, you feel that way because like how I said before, you feel that way because your future self already has it. Yeah.
And it's contagious.
It is.
Somebody else gets inspired. Yeah. You know, and it's like a interesting feel. So it's like, is that what people have talked about for millennia when they talk about the story of God and how we're all connected, and like there's these similarities that we could take, that heaven is like here on earth if we're in love, feeling gratitude, inspiration, enthusiasm, helping one another, thriving, having good ideas, creating, putting yourself in a situation where you're having so much fun and joy, delight, like all these things. Doesn't that mean like, you know, heaven's on earth?
It can be 110%.
And the same thing with like hell. If we go down the rabbit hole and start, the only two things in life we can control are our effort and our attitude. So if our attitude is negative, we're going down like more, incoherent thought patterns, maybe incoherent emotions, or like we're feeding off anger or greed or jealousy or shame or fear in general, like, and we're behaving with those fundamental feelings at the core of all our behaviors and our creativities, then incoherence starts to spiral, and like you can live also in a hell on earth, being in pain, being sad, being hyper jealous. I'm never going to get there. Oh, poor me. No one's ever going to help me. No one's going to save me. No one's going to love me. Blah, 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 blah. All the negative, right? You can have a hell on earth.
You can.
Too.
And the more you soak yourself in that negativity and the more you soak yourself into that energy, the more you're going to feel it, because you are what you think.
Yes.
If you think that you are stuck in this negative hell, you're never going to get out of it.
Yeah. So then how can we get out of it? So let's talk about and brainstorm some of those ways. Obviously for you it was exercise.
100%.
Was a big thing.
But with the exercise, the reason it worked for me was because I was putting myself in a positive energy. I was doing something for myself. I was waking up at 4 a.m., getting my butt to the gym, working out. I would feel good. I'd be like, oh my God, I got this little like muscle peak. Like I'm looking good. And it would immediately feel better because I was getting this like positive like thoughts about myself. And then all of a sudden I was starting to feel love for myself. I was starting to just feel positive energy in general.
Yeah, and you couple that with being outside, getting sunlight.
Oh, 100%.
Getting your feet in the ground, getting yourself in water if it's calling for water.
I am huge about connecting with the earth.
Right.
Like the more I connect myself with the earth, the more I spend like an hour of the day just like sitting with my feet in the grass, going in the water, like doing something connected with the earth.
Yep.
I feel 100 times better throughout the day.
Yep. Breath work, meditation is another thing that we've talked about ad nauseum. Just simple 1 to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you have available to just inhale, exhale, think about the inhale, think about the exhale. Anytime your mind goes astray, to redirect it back to the inhale and exhale.
I'll do it in the water.
Yeah, right.
Like I do it wherever I need to. If I ever feel myself starting to get that like anxious thinking, I do my breathing. I focus on my breathing. If I have to, I'll get out of the water, sit on the beach for a bit and, take a few breaths. Like whatever it may be, that breathing is so important to get your brain back into that conscious state.
Yeah, I think it anchors us.
100%.
If we're in the water, it anchors us down and we can definitely start to move on instinct as opposed to fear responses. What else is there? There's journaling. Writing out your thoughts.
I'm huge about journaling.
Right? Because I like if you're journaling your thoughts and you're keeping a good record of it and you're doing it consistently, you then can go back and see what you were writing and start to remember, hey, why was I feeling so distraught in this moment? Oh, yeah, look how it turned out. And then you start to develop a confidence around some of the previous insecurities you might have. So it's like healing in real time, right? Positive affirmations. I am strong. I am powerful. I am creative. I am resilient. Saying those out loud and just building yourself and priming yourself to think and know and believe that you are all those things.
Yeah.
What else is there? Fasting. I like to think fasting helps because
I have yet to try fasting.
not for everybody, but I like to fast because it breaks my my pattern of breaking down food. So like I'm not using energy to break down food. I'm clean in that sense, tapping into your fat stores and then eating fat or eating cells that are dead cells. So cells that your body can't really use anymore. If you're fasting, your body uses the dead cells for fuel, which I think is really interesting. So I think that's an interesting thing to kind of get your body and mind and all that stuff to be at equilibrium. Cold therapy, so getting into cold water submersion, I think definitely helps the nervous system and the physical body reduce inflammation. Getting into sauna, I think helps managing all this stuff that we're talking about. What are your thoughts about like music?
Oh, I love music.
Yeah, getting yourself in the right like zone.
I have so many playlists and so many different songs. I love music because what I'll do is I'll give myself a few songs for whatever I'm feeling in the moment. Like if I am very, very sad, I put on a few songs to let me really feel that emotion. And then I'll switch it over to something a little bit more positive and start listening to more positive stuff, and I'll see my mind completely shift. So I let myself, because it's so important to let yourself feel your emotions.
Yes.
So I felt what I needed to feel. Now let's switch our mind and let's, I'll even do it before the gym. Like let's say if I'm going through a breakup, what I will do is before I go to the gym, I'll listen to those few songs that let me really feel the emotion of that. And then I'll put on something that's more like, I'm going to get better, like something more powerful and something that has more, positive energy to it. And then I'll kind of listen to that in the car on the way to the gym. And then I'll walk into the gym, have that positive music playing, and it's just like, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm just putting so much energy into just getting better.
Your effort and your attitude.
Exactly.
Your attitude, and then making the effort to develop something positive, and then just kind of go with that momentum, because everything builds off momentum.
It is.
You know, positive momentum. And then, you know, when we get new ideas and new challenges that we set for ourselves, then we're going to go back into some like darker times. And we just got to remember that those darker times are there to sharpen us.
100%.
And to remember to stay positive. And that's the whole point of having a positive community around you, because it will build you back up when you're in distress. Right? You can believe again, hey, no, I got this shit. I'm just going through these growing pains. This is a process that's very important.
I actually, talking back about journaling, before we decided to do this podcast, I had that night written down like a huge long journal passage talking about how I kept seeing 444 and how I took it as a sign to take this job, because I felt like I mean, when I walked into here, I was like, I love the energy of this place.
That's great.
And then I immediately, like I said before, I had this negative energy come into my life, and that was the universe testing me, saying, are you going to choose to keep putting yourself in this positive energy and keep going down this positive path? Or are you going to stay with this negativity and let this negativity take me down? So I was pushed into a low point in my life, so I was able to climb up and come out even better than it was before.
Yeah. Cool. I love it. More people need to hear stuff like this. And I'm glad that we finally got the time to podcast.
Me too. 100%.
And for you to share your story, and for the people here at Underground or anyone listening to kind of get to know you a little bit more and see what we're all about here at Underground Fitness Studio, and just to kind of vibe.
Positive energy at Underground.
Well, like I like to think that you know, when we created this spot, like I want to create a container or a space for people to realize their own levels of potential and their capabilities of healing.
And that's 100% what's been happening with me.
Yeah, and everybody that's coming down
Clients.
here, or a lot of people down here, it's like you realize your own capabilities of healing, your own capabilities of performing better. We facilitate that. There's a lot of ways to do it, but when you step down through these doors, you are in real time realizing your capabilities, and that goes for all of us. Anybody, whether you're a trainer, whether you're you know, a patient or a client, or you know, whatever it is that you're coming for down here, chiropractic, one-on-one training, physical therapy, education, that we're realizing our own potential in real time. And there's infinite levels that we can achieve if we keep our brain kind of like formulated around this concept, right? And I think it could get a little sick. One of my biggest problems is that I come up with too many good ideas, or ideas in general. I don't want to say they're all good shit. I want to think that they are. I want to believe that they all are, but like, you know, you do need the right people around you to kind of pull you back to reality. Because all I think about is like, oh yeah, I can do this, I can do that, and then it's like, all right, well, you got to do this and you got to do that, and you got to manage your time. And when you do this a lot, it can get overwhelming, and it can cause its own stress and you know, your own physical pains. And I'm self-inducing it. It's just like, you got to be, like you're talking about, we got to be mindful of like when we're going too hard and when we got to pull back. And like, this is a long game, and it's always shifting, and we
100%.
always got to be, you know, mindful of our actions, our thoughts, and how we're speaking, what we're thinking, what we're trying to create, and what's the purpose and what's the intention behind everything. But yeah, like at the end of the day, like the intention of Underground is to help people improve physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, connect to something bigger than yourself, and realize your highest level of potential growth and healing. And I think that's what we're trying to do, and we're doing that with the stuff that we got going on, and the group that we're forming, and the things that we're teaching. So this is great. Where can people find you on Instagram, and where can people find, if they want to work with you more exclusively, if they're a bodybuilder, if they're a surfer, what's the best place to reach you? So
the best place would be Instagram. My Instagram is Pia B and then a period fit. Shoot me a DM whenever. I'm always active on my phone. Not always, but I will always be responding as soon as possible.
I'd be careful with that, because you get so big that it's gonna be very hard to respond to everybody. But you know, you do your best. I 100%. I am very big about just trying to get to you guys as soon as possible. The times that I won't reply are usually because I'm out in the water. But as soon as I see that notification, I will respond to you. Awesome. Well, Pia, this has been great. This has been great. Thank you so much for doing this. Of course. Thank you. Whoa. All right, dab it up, baby. Shit. All right, everybody. That's Pia B Fit. Peace.